Well, welcome to another episode of People in Politics. We're very honored today to have our new guest on here, Councilman Zach Klein from the City of Columbus.
Appreciate it, Bobby. Thank you.
It's great to have you on.
I'm grateful to be on.
Thank you very much. Well, you've seen a lot of the shows, and you know kind of what we want to talk about here. We're here to learn a lot about you as a person and how you got involved in politics.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, you
what
ready?
Do you want to know?
All right. Where'd you come from? Where are you from? Columbus? Are you from Ohio? Tell me how you got started.
So I grew up in southeastern Ohio.
Okay.
I grew up in Belpre, Ohio. It's across the river from Parkersburg, West Virginia.
Okay.
Down in the sticks.
You and 8 other people in the
city? God's country, as Ted Strickland would call it. He was my congressman when I was growing up.
Okay.
So, I went to Butler University for a year and a half. Left Belpre High and went to Butler University and got a phone call and said, you should consider walking on at Butler. So I went and tried out for a practice. And the reason why it was only a practice was because I was partnered with a guy that could have played linebacker at Notre Dame or Michigan. All right, and he decides to play basketball for Butler. And so he not only beats the crap out of me for a 2-hour practice, but the icing on the cake. So I'm leaving the practice, and I'm like, man, I'm just not cut out for this. This is a whole other league of basketball. You come from a small high school, you think you can play some ball, you play AAU and summer ball, and you go play Division I, and those guys are just so good at what they do. They go into the weight room afterwards, and this linebacker, Notre Dame or Michigan. So he's not a weak guy.
Yeah.
He puts what seemed to be like 400 or 500 pounds on the bench press, and at that point, I'm like, I can't even properly spot this guy, and that's when I knew that maybe Division I basketball wasn't cut out for me. Yeah. So I actually transferred to Ohio State, finished out there, and then went to law school at Capital University.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Now, as you guys might not notice here, because we manipulated the camera angle a little bit, you're 6'6".
Yes, and you're sitting on 2 phone books, so that's why you look like you're
I'm 5'6", you're 6'6".
He told me to slouch before. He's like, slouch, I'll sit on the phone book, so it makes us look good.
Yeah, so now you guys can understand the reason why we look like we're almost the same height, and we're nowhere near the same height. That's the reason why he's walking on, and I was not.
Your point guard.
Yes, exactly. So you graduated Capital.
Yeah, clerked for a couple federal judges, and then left my clerkship to travel to state with Rich Cordray.
Okay.
He was running in that special election, remember, in 2008, running for Ohio Attorney General, and Rich and I traveled the state together in his minivan. I was like body guy, driver, traveling chief of staff, traveling communications, kind of a jack of all trades, but really got my exposure to statewide politics, getting to know Rich Cordray in 2008, and what a great guy, smart guy, and just he's someone that I've really looked up to since then, and had all the intention in the world of working for him in the Attorney General's office when I got a call over Thanksgiving of November 2008 and got an opportunity to go work at the White House for Vice President Biden.
Wow.
I'll never forget that call. I pick up the phone, Zach, do you want to come work at the White House?
No, click.
Well, no. Well, my wife, okay, so she's a shoe buyer for DSW.
Well, what's your wife's name?
My wife's name's Jenny.
Okay, Jenny.
So she's a shoe buyer for DSW. She loves her job. She buys shoes for a living.
She's not allowed to talk to my wife.
Yeah. So I say, Jenny, you'll never guess. I just got off the phone. I got this amazing opportunity to go work at the White House for President Obama, Vice President Biden. And she's like, that's great, but if you think I'm giving up buying shoes for a living, you're nuts. There may have been an expletive in there. I don't know.
But, toned it down a little bit.
Long story short, I ended up going and working for the vice president.
Wow.
And I traveled back and forth every weekend because Jenny and I were newly married. So it was like I was living the life of a congressman, except I got paid like a third as much, had to pay for my own travel and commute back and forth from Ohio. So I was in D.C. during the week, in Ohio on the weekends.
How do you get a phone call like that? I mean, I'm not getting, they just don't look through the web page. They say, okay, I'm going to call this guy. How do you get a phone call like that from the vice president's office?
It was someone that I met when I was in college and just kind of continue to stay in contact with.
Really?
Yeah, we'll have to do a whole other kind of
So it was like
episode.
Networking, that's all it was?
Networking, that's
wow.
what it basically summed up. And so I went to D.C. and did that and had a tremendous opportunity to serve as president. I was there for a year.
Okay.
Just a little shy of a year, but just there for a year. And then came back and worked for Rich in the AG's office as an assistant attorney general. Advised him in managing the special counsel portfolio for the state of Ohio as attorney general. And also advised him on securities litigation, where we were fortunate enough to recover millions and millions of dollars for retirees in the state of Ohio. Something I'm particularly proud of, and the work that we've done there, the people that work all their lives to get a chance to keep that pension that they earned.
That's great.
And then I was also special assistant U.S. attorney and prosecuted white-collar criminal crime. So Rich really gave me this opportunity to do a lot of good things to help the state, and something that I got great experience in doing and things that I'm particularly proud of.
So you go from that, you had an opportunity to run for city council in Columbus?
Someone retired. I was appointed to the council in January of 2011 and then ran that subsequent November, won, and I'm serving the 4-year term now. I'm up this November.
This November,
Yep,
right?
Yep.
Okay.
And as an aside, I referee Division I women's college basketball.
I was just going to ask you about that. Division I college women's basketball. Okay. How did you get started in that?
Just really tried to make some money in college. So when I was at Butler, my randomly selected roommate, you go to college, you get a roommate. He was from the Indianapolis area.
Okay.
And he had a family friend come over to help move something, like move a couch. And he was like, you guys look like you need to make some money. And we were both kind of recovering basketball players. And he said, you guys should go referee basketball, referee like itty-bitty kids. So we went and took the test and got licensed, and on a Saturday would referee CYO or whatever it may be. And I just continued that on when I transferred to Ohio State, refereeing intramurals, and then one thing led to another where I moved up the rank and actually refereed a Division III college game before I even refereed a high school basketball game.
Wow.
A high school varsity basketball game. And so just was very fortunate that folks said, you're actually not bad at calling fouls and violations. So I spent a couple years refereeing in the D League, the NBA minor league, and have refereed women's college basketball now since really 2003, 2004. Do the ACC, the Big East, the American, the MAC, the Horizon League.
That's great.
The Atlantic 10. Yeah, so it's been wonderful. My mom played women's college basketball at a small college in Indiana. My dad played. My brother's the assistant women's coach at Ohio State.
Oh, wow.
So women's basketball
it's
itself.
It's
been something that's important. That's why I was so instrumental, and why I wanted to be so instrumental in bringing the women's Final Four to Columbus, because women's basketball has been so good to me. And now that I have a daughter, Stella, who's going to be 3 in a couple weeks.
And you have a son too, right?
I do. Son Rocco, who's 10 months, but Stella in particular, she needs to see these wonderful women role models, the coaches, the players, and to bring the Final Four to Columbus so that she can see this with her own eyes. Like, you can accomplish that, Stella, just like every other young girl in the city of Columbus get a chance to go and see the activities of the Final Four and say, you can be a champion, you can do this yourself, and here's the Final Four right in the city of Columbus.
That's fantastic. Now, obviously, the finals being in Cleveland, you had an opportunity. Did you go to any of the games or no?
I did not. I wish I did. I watched them to the extent that you can. I mean, they start at 9 o'clock, and you got 2 kids. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, I think we've had some questionable calls. You as a ref, what do you say to that?
No comment. And not because I think not because I think they're questionable calls, but just those games are tough to referee.
They're tough. It's really fast paced. I mean, you were telling me they're at the 3-point line. You blink your eye, they're at the rim.
Yep.
Right?
And when I refereed the D League, I'd step on the court. We were talking about my height, and I'm above average height, but I'd be below average height on a professional basketball court.
Yeah, so I would be really out of place on a professional basketball court.
You'd be like assistant coach or referee.
Or referee, or somebody's kid running around.
Unlikely player. No offense, but unlikely player.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but the referees in the NBA are the best in the world.
That's fantastic.
Doesn't mean they miss calls. Sure, they miss calls.
They're professional athletes like everybody else.
But they are
right?
the best basketball referees in the world. Yeah. The game is just difficult to ref.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. So if you had to choose politics or reffing as going in your career, can you do both, or can you?
I've managed to do both thus far, but my heart is in the government realm.
You love it.
Yeah, because I want to make a difference, and no matter what's going on in the world, you always kind of take a step back, like, why are you in this business? And it's to make a difference in someone's life.
Yeah.
And you really have that opportunity at the municipal level, and that's something the things that I'm proud of what we've done in the city.
And you've been in Columbus now, where it started here and it just skyrocketed to be the largest city in Ohio.
15th largest city in the United States. We're pushing about 850,000 people just in the city of Columbus. So a lot of kudos goes to the administration and the people that served before me. I can't pretend to take any credit, but working with them, building upon that momentum. And I think the secret sauce in the city of Columbus is collaboration and partnership. Mm-hmm. It's working with the private sector. It's working with the business community. It's working with our labor friends, all together rowing in the same direction to accomplish the greater good for the city of Columbus as a whole.
Well, it seems like you got a great roadmap moving forward, that's for sure.
We're very fortunate.
That's great. And one of the questions that I got to ask you, I ask everybody, and we've had a broad range of answers to this question, but it really gives some insight as to where you are politically and how you want to figure out some of the mentors that you look at. who's your favorite U.S. president and why?
Okay. I immediately think of Clinton and Obama, and I immediately think of FDR. But it's hard for me to lose sight, especially given the timing of this interview,
Sure.
not to say Lincoln.
Sure.
With what the shootings in Charleston, the removal of the Confederate flag in the South, and the states that are finally doing it. It's hard for me, even though Lincoln was a Republican, it's hard for me not to immediately think of Lincoln, just given the timing of what's going on in our country and the recognition that racism still exists and there's hatred out there, and what Lincoln did in a heroic fashion that also ultimately cost him his life to stand up and end slavery in the United States.
Yeah.
And so I would have to pick today, at least, Lincoln, just because of all the things that are going on as we have this conversation right now.
Sure. No, and that's great. That's a great answer. We've had Democrats pick Democrats and Republicans pick Republicans, but we also had a mix. Republicans pick Democrats and vice versa. So,
and don't get me wrong, like I said,
I
think Clinton. I love Bill Clinton.
Yeah, I mean,
and what FDR to expand the social network and safety net for Americans is admirable and something that we need to continue. But I think just given the timing of this interview right now, it's hard not to think of Lincoln.
Sure. And with Bill Clinton, too, I mean, especially, what does he have, like a 70% approval rating? Sure. I mean, if the guy ran for president now, he would win again. I mean, he's, we've had him mentioned a couple times in JFK and others, too. So that's fantastic. We had a chance to learn a lot about you.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time. This is great.
No, I appreciate you taking the time. You're the one with the busy schedule. You're campaigning, you're a councilman, you're a father, you're a husband. You got a lot of stuff going on, so we appreciate you coming on board, and we appreciate you guys tuning into another episode of People in Politics. Please stay tuned to another one that we'll be filming here very, very soon. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, Zach.
No, and especially to your audience, thanks for sticking through to the end of the interview. I appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you later.